In the cold halls of galactic justice, humanity stood accused. We were a young species, barely a blink in the eye of cosmic history. And the ancient powers that ruled the stars had decided we were a threat. Our crime was not aggression. It was ambition. Our sin was not violence. It was innovation. They feared what we might become. So they sentenced us to a cage. A 2,000-year quarantine, locked away in our home system, to be forgotten by the galaxy. But what happens when you try to cage a species that was born to explore? What impossible technology will they build in secret, driven by the sheer, stubborn refusal to be contained? And when they finally return, not as humbled supplicants, but as the leaders of a new, powerful alliance, what will become of the old galactic order that cast them out? Banished by the Galactic Council, humanity built a mighty empire. Before we begin our journey into the shadows of the galaxy, take a moment to subscribe. Your support is the signal that guides us through the darkness. Like this video, and let the universe know you are here. Alright, let's begin the story. Then, Commander Arion Vance stood at the entrance to the Galactic Mandate's chamber on Centauri Station. The massive space habitat served as the neutral heart of the 17 spacefaring civilizations that ruled this arm of the galaxy. The 20-minute walk from the human bay, the smallest and farthest from the central hub, had been a calculated insult. A journey through increasingly luxurious sectors, each one a testament to the ancient wealth and power of species that viewed humanity as little more than clever animals. He adjusted the simple blue collar of his formal uniform. At 42, his face already showed the strain of 5 years as humanity's lead representative. The job had added streaks of gray to his dark hair and etched permanent lines around his eyes. Today, those lines were deeper than usual. He had been summoned to receive the mandate's judgment. It wasn't a hearing. It was a sentencing. The chamber itself was designed to intimidate. He stood on a small circular platform at the bottom of a vast amphitheater. Tiered seating rose around him in a full 360 degrees. Each delegation sat in opulent, environmentally controlled sections, looking down on him. This was not a meeting of peers. This was a trial. High Arbiter Forlag of the Vesper Collective rose from the central podium. His insectoid form, nearly 3 meters tall, gleamed under the chamber lights. His multiple arms moved in the precise, ancient gestures that accompanied formal Vesperi speech. Commander Arion Vance of Earth, you have been summoned to receive the mandate's judgment regarding the Proxima incident and other accumulated concerns about human behavior in galactic affairs. Arion kept his face a neutral mask. The Proxima incident was a battle where human security forces had defended a mixed-species mining operation from Cthar slavers. We had saved 100 lives. But in doing so, we had killed 12 raiders from a species that held 3 seats on the mandate's trade committee. For the next hour, representatives from 12 species took turns listing grievances. Human unpredictability, aggressive encroachment on established territories, refusal to share artificial intelligence research, use of lethal force when containment would have sufficed. The Proximans, with their pale blue skin and 4 unblinking eyes, seemed particularly eager to portray humans as violent primitives who had murdered innocent traders. Arion was allowed to speak only once. For exactly 5 minutes. He presented the evidence. Sensor logs showing the slavers had fired first. Communication intercepts proving their intent to take specimens. His words vanished into the vast chamber without effect. The delegates watched with expressions ranging from boredom to open hostility. Finally, Forlag raised his primary limbs for silence. The mandate has deliberated and reached unanimous consensus, the Vesperi announced. Humanity has demonstrated itself to be dangerously unpredictable, culturally incompatible with galactic norms, and unwilling to accept the guidance of more advanced civilizations. Arion felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. He had expected sanctions, trade restrictions. He had not expected this. Therefore, Forlag continued, his voice ringing with absolute authority, by the power granted under the Treaty of 17 Stars. The Galactic Mandate hereby revokes Earth's observer status and imposes a full quarantine on the human species. Murmurs of approval rippled through the chamber. All human vessels will return to the Sol system within 30 standard days. The mandate will establish monitoring stations at the system boundaries. Any human ship attempting to leave will be disabled or destroyed. He paused, letting the weight of the sentence sink in. This quarantine will remain in effect for no less than 500 galactic cycles. Arion couldn't keep the shock from his face. 500 cycles. 2,000 Earth years. This is not a temporary measure, Commander Vance, Forlag continued, his compound eyes gleaming with cold satisfaction. This is the consensus of all advanced species. Humans are not ready for galactic society. Perhaps your distant descendants will have evolved beyond your primitive, aggressive tendencies. Arion stepped forward, his voice a low growl. The mandate has no right. The mandate has every right, interrupted the Proximan delegate, all four of his eyes blinking in triumph. Your species was allowed provisional contact too early. This is a correction of that mistake. Two mandate security officers, hulking creatures in powered exoskeletons, approached the platform. They motioned for Arion to follow them. You have 12 hours to collect your staff and depart Centauri Station, one stated flatly. Your access to all mandate networks will be revoked upon your departure. As they escorted him from the chamber, Arion's mind raced. Earth had begun to depend on mandate trade, particularly for certain rare elements needed for our advanced computing systems. A sudden cutoff would cause economic chaos, mass unemployment, starvation. But beneath his diplomatic calm, a spark of cold, hard anger began to grow. The mandate had never treated humans as equals. Every piece of technology they shared had been outdated. Every concession had come with crippling restrictions. They didn't want partners. They wanted pets. In the shuttle back to the human embassy, Arion stared out at the gleaming spires of Centauri Station. The mandate thought they were containing a threat. They thought they were ensuring their continued dominance of the galaxy. They didn't understand humans at all. By the time Arion reached his office, he had already begun planning. The mandate had made a critical, fatal error. They assumed humans would accept their fate. They assumed we would obediently retreat to our small corner of the galaxy and live under their watchful eyes for 2,000 years. He opened a secure, quantum-encrypted channel to Earth's Central Command, a channel the mandate didn't even know existed. "This is Commander Vance," he said, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "The mandate has ordered a complete quarantine of the Sol system. All human ships are to return home immediately." He paused, then added the words that would change the course of human history, and informed Dr. Vance at the Atacama facility that Project Daedalus is now our absolute priority. If the mandate won't let us use their roads, he smiled grimly, we'll build our own. The path ahead would be difficult, but Arion Vance knew one thing with absolute certainty. The story of humanity among the stars was just beginning, and someday, the mandate would regret the day they thought they could cage the human spirit. 10 years had passed, 10 years of silence from the Sol system. The galactic mandate had moved on. The human problem was considered solved. The monitoring stations at the edge of Sol system reported no breaches. Occasional scans of Earth showed a species struggling with economic collapse and resource shortages. Just as predicted, the quarantine was working. Deep beneath the Atacama Desert in Chile, far from the prying eyes of the mandate's orbital monitors, Dr. Alara Vance wiped sweat from her forehead. She stared at the holographic display floating above the laboratory table. At 35, she was the leading quantum physicist on Earth, head of the secret Daedalus project her brother Arion had initiated the day of their banishment. "Run the simulation again, Frank," Alara instructed her assistant. "Increase power to the quantum field generator by 12%. Modulate the resonance frequency along the fifth axis." The hologram shifted. It showed a stream of virtual particles flowing through an artificial wormhole. For a decade, every simulation had resulted in a catastrophic collapse after just milliseconds. This time, the wormhole stabilized. Its edges glowed a soft, steady blue. "It's holding," Frank whispered, afraid to break the spell. Alara's heart was pounding. She watched the data readings. 30 seconds. 1 minute. 2 minutes. She looked up, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and triumph. "We did it, Frank. The quantum field is stable." Frank stared at the simulation in awe. So the theory was right. The mandate ships, they don't actually generate their FTL fields from scratch. They just tap into a natural network. Alara nodded, a fierce grin spreading across her face. A network of naturally occurring, microscopic wormholes that crisscross the galaxy. They kept that knowledge from us. They made us believe FTL travel required technology thousands of years beyond our capabilities. She looked at the stable, shimmering wormhole in the hologram. But we don't need their permission to use the laws of physics. 3 days later, Alara stood before the United Earth Defense Council in the underground headquarters beneath what had once been Geneva. Admiral Arion Vance, his hair now completely gray but his eyes as sharp as ever, sat at the center of the half-circle table. Dr. Vance, he began. Your report claims you've discovered how the mandate races achieve faster than light travel. Explain. Alara activated her presentation. A three-dimensional model of the galaxy appeared. The mandate doesn't use technology to travel faster than light, not in the way we thought, she explained. They've simply mapped these natural wormholes. Their ships use quantum field generators to briefly widen one of these microscopic bridges, just enough to slip through. And they blocked our access to their maps, said the Asian Federation representative. Yes, Alara continued. But that's not the important part. The critical discovery is that we don't need their maps. With enough power, we can create our own, fully artificial wormholes. The room fell silent. The implication was staggering. Are you saying we can break the quarantine? Asked the Mars colony representative. I'm saying we can bypass it entirely, Alara replied. The mandate is watching the natural wormhole entrances near our system. They have no way to detect or block an artificially created one. We can go anywhere we want. Admiral Vance's face remained carefully neutral, but Alara could see the fire rekindled in his eyes. How soon can this technology be deployed? With proper funding and resources, she said, we could have a prototype ship ready within 3 years. A fully functional vessel within 5. Arion looked around the table. You will have everything you need, Doctor. Every resource Earth can provide. 4 years later, Alara stood in a massive, secret hangar carved into the far side of the moon. Before her loomed the Deadless, one, humanity's first wormhole-capable starship. Unlike the elegant, organic designs of mandate vessels, the Deadless one was angular and brutally functional. Its center featured a massive ring, the artificial wormhole generator, surrounded by 4 advanced fusion reactors. It wasn't pretty, but it was hope. Admiral Vance joined her on the observation platform. At his side walked Captain Jax Thorne, the man who would command humanity's first secret voyage beyond the quarantine. It's smaller than I expected, Jax remarked. We kept it minimal for the first test, Alara explained. Just enough room for your crew of 12 and the essential equipment. If you succeed, we'll build bigger ships. When we succeed, Jax corrected with a confident smile. The launch was timed for the moment the moon would provide maximum shielding from mandate sensors. As the final preparations were made, Alara joined Jax in the ship's control room. The coordinates are set for the Epsilon Eridani system, she told him. It's close enough for a first jump, but far enough that the mandate doesn't monitor it. There's a potentially habitable planet in the Goldilocks zone. If it's viable, Jax nodded, we'll establish the first outpost there. We're calling it Elysium. Remember, Alara cautioned, once you activate the generator, you'll have exactly 45 seconds to pass through before the wormhole collapses. Your systems will need 12 hours to recharge before you can generate another one for the return trip. We drilled it 100 times in the simulator, Doctor. We're ready. The countdown proceeded with tense, silent efficiency. On the observation deck, Admiral Vance watched the screens. Artificial wormhole generator at full charge, came the navigator's voice. Coordinates locked. Field generation in 10-9-8. The room held its breath. 3, 2, 1. Initiating. A swirling blue vortex, a tear in the fabric of reality, appeared before the ship. It expanded until it stabilized as a perfect, shimmering ring of energy. Without hesitation, the Deadless one surged forward, accelerating into the wormhole. The moment it passed through, the wormhole collapsed behind it, leaving no trace. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then the deep space tracking systems updated. Signal detected from Epsilon Eridani, the mission controller announced, his voice cracking with emotion. Deadless one has successfully transitioned. I repeat, they have broken the quarantine. Cheers erupted throughout the control room. Admiral Vance remained seated, but Alara could see the unshed tears in his eyes. After 10 years of confinement, humanity had found its way back to the stars. This is just the beginning, Arion said quietly to Alara. The Mandate thought they could contain us. He looked at the empty space where the ship had been. They were wrong. 50 years had passed since humanity established its first secret colony on Elysium. What began as a single settlement had blossomed into a network of 17 thriving colonies across what humans now called the Terran Expanse. Each colony developed its own identity, but all remained united under the banner of the newly formed Elysian Compact. The Deadless Project had evolved. Newer ships were faster, more efficient. Human innovation, freed from the Mandate's restrictions, had accelerated at an unprecedented rate. Captain Eva Rostova stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Horizon. The blue-green planet on the view screen grew larger. Entering standard orbit, Captain, reported the navigator. Life signs? Eva asked. Abundant, the science officer replied. And definitely intelligent. We're detecting cities, early industrial development. Eva nodded. Prepare a first contact package. Standard protocol. This was her mission, to find new civilizations. Specifically, the ones the Galactic Mandate had overlooked or deliberately ignored. The planet below was home to the Drathi, a humanoid species with remarkable cognitive abilities. According to stolen Mandate records, they had been classified as too unstable for integration and placed on a monitoring list. The same label once applied to humans. The Drathi response was cautious, but curious. A single, simple transmission. Who are you? Within hours, Eva found herself leading a delegation to the surface. I am Vorel, speaker for the Drathi Collective, said the lead figure, a tall, slender being. We have wondered when the Sky People would finally speak to us. I am Captain Rostova of the Elysian Compact, Eva replied. We come in peace. Elysian? Vorel tilted his head. You are not representatives of the Galactic Mandate. No, Eva said honestly. We have our own path. She explained humanity's story. The banishment. The breakthrough. The secret expansion. She shared what she knew of the Mandate's policy of selective engagement, revealing to the Drathi that they had been deliberately left behind. They deemed us unworthy, Vorel said, his large eyes showing a deep, sad understanding. Just as they judged your kind. We believe every species has the right to determine its own destiny, Eva explained. The Compact offers partnership, not subjugation. We share knowledge freely. And what do you gain from this? Diversity, Eva answered. Different perspectives. New ideas. Together, we all become stronger. The Drathi joined the Elysian Compact. It was the first of many. Over the next 70 years, the Compact grew, a secret, thriving civilization in the galactic shadows, built on the principles of mutual respect and cooperation. 120 years after humanity broke free, the inevitable finally happened. An unidentified ship, using the distinctive drive signature of Mandate technology, entered the Novatera system, the new capital of the Elysian Compact. Chancellor Jin Li was immediately notified. It's a scout ship, her defense director reported. Small, minimal weapon. NS. Vesperi design. They've been scanning the entire system. They've seen everything. Li nodded calmly. The hiding was over. Open a communication channel. The Vesperi Inquisitor, Thar, appeared on the screen, his insectoid features rigid with shock. This is a severe treaty violation. How did you bypass the monitoring stations? How many settlements have you established? I invite you to dock at our orbital diplomatic center. Inquisitor, Li replied smoothly. These questions deserve a proper discussion. Thar agreed, intending to gather evidence for the Mandate. What he found shattered his understanding of the galaxy. He was met by a multi-species honor guard. Humans stood shoulder to shoulder with the blue-skinned Drathi, the crystalline Novid, and a dozen other species. Impossible, he whispered. Through the transparent walls of the station, he saw massive construction projects. Space elevators connecting to floating cities. Shipyards building vessels of designs he'd never seen. The Mandate made a mistake, Li said simply. They judged us by what we were, not by what we could become. We are not asking for permission to exist, Inquisitor. We are informing you that we do. For 3 days, Thar gathered information. He saw a vibrant, growing civilization built on principles the Mandate had long forgotten. My report to the High Arbiter will be thorough and accurate, he stated before departing. I cannot predict their response. We understand, Li said. But whatever their decision, the Elysian Compact stands ready. for either peaceful coexistence or to defend what we have built. 80 years passed. 80 years of a cold, tense standoff. The Mandate was in turmoil. Kthar's report had fractured their unity. Some hardliners demanded war. Others, seeing the Compact's strength and the loyalty of its members, urged for a diplomatic solution. Limited skirmishes flared along the border, but full-scale war never materialized. The Compact's technology, developed in freedom, proved to be superior. Their multi-species fleets fought with a unity the Mandate's conscripted armies could not match. The Mandate's authority withered. More species seceded or declared neutrality. The old order was dying. 200 years after humanity had been cast out, the peace talks began. Commander Kalen Vance, a direct descendant of Arion Vance, led the Elysian Compact delegation back to Centauri Station. The station had changed. The human bay was gone, replaced by a massive, opulent docking area designated for the Elysian Compact, with accommodations for dozens of different species. He led his delegation, humans, Drathi, Novit, and others, through the same corridors his ancestor had walked. But this time, they were not met with scorn. They were met with curiosity and fear. In the Great Chamber, many of the old platforms were empty, their species having left the Mandate to join the Compact or forge their own path. The Mandate recognizes Commander Kalen Vance of the Elysian Compact, announced the new High Arbiter. Kalen stepped forward. Behind him stood the vibrant, diverse proof of what humanity had built. High Arbiter, honored representatives, he began, his voice steady. I stand before you to formally end 2 centuries of conflict and misunderstanding. The Compact comes not seeking approval or forgiveness, but to establish a new relationship, based on mutual respect. He paused, looking around the chamber where his ancestor had once stood alone and condemned. 200 years ago, this body judged humanity unworthy of galactic society. You attempted to contain what you feared. That decision set in motion events that have reshaped this galaxy. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Mandate's time as the sole arbiter of galactic affairs has ended, he announced clearly. The Elysian Compact proposes a new agreement. A galactic compact, one that respects the sovereignty of all spacefaring civilizations and establishes common rules that apply, equally, to all. The chamber erupted. Outrage from the old guard. Cheers from the progressives. In the observation gallery, an old man watched with satisfaction. Arion Vance, his life extended far beyond normal limits by compact medical technology, witnessed the culmination of his legacy. He watched as his great-great-grandson stood before the same body that had banished him. But this time, not as a supplicant, not as a prisoner, as an equal. The old order was ending. A new chapter was beginning. The Mandate had meant to contain humanity's potential. Instead, they had forced us to find our own path. A path that led not just to survival, but to the creation of a new galactic order. One based on principles the old Mandate had long forgotten. The species that had once been banished now offered a hand of friendship to their former judges, proving that the greatest empire wasn't built through conquest, but through vision, resilience, and the courage to build something new in the darkness.